Fabulous. Good evening. Welcome to the Wednesday workshop. And tonight is the second of a sequence of seven, all focusing on uh, tweaking our mindsets for helping us design and create more of the life that we want to live, to discover more success. But success doesn't mean kind of fame and fortune. Success is just living a life that you're content with, that you're happy with. And for some people, that might be big fancy cars and lots of money. And for other people, it might just be a nice, simple living where you're not worrying too much about the bills and you do a bit of what you enjoy and life's good. Success is such a personal thing. In the first session, we looked at self-belief, and that's up in the members area now. And in this session, we're looking at clarity, because it doesn't matter how much self-belief you've got. If you don't know where you're going, you're probably not going to get there. And when it comes to clarity, one thing we have to keep in mind is we all have an inner genius. We all have an inner genius, but it's restricted by what's generally referred to as the upper limit problem. Kind of ties in with when we've done limiting beliefs kind of workshops in the past. The upper limit problem is there comes a point that you can't see yourself being beyond. It's not a real barrier, but because you can only imagine yourself going this far, it then stops you going that next step. And even successful people have this upper limit problem that holds them back from achieving their true potential, as it holds us back from achieving ours. And so tonight we're going to look at some exercises, some practical exercises. Some of it involves writing and thinking. We'll touch on it tonight, but I encourage you to do the exercise in more fullness in your own time. But tonight we're going to have a look at how we can start to change this upper limit problem, this restriction that we put upon ourselves, and so allowing us to kind of master and connect with our inner genius and live with more to our full potential. There's a few people I'm going to mention. First, just to give an example of how this barrier, if it's not there, can allow us to achieve things. If that upper limit problem is in place, as I said, it'll hold us back. If we get past that, we can achieve things that we possibly would never have imagined we can achieve. Roger Bannister, the first person to run a mile in under a minute, never knew any of his practice run timings. His team and himself decided that they would not let him know what those times were, and he was very, very close to it just in his trials and his practice runs, because to do so may limit him. So if he knew that he could do it in a mile in, say, I don't know, a minute 10 seconds, and he'd hit that a couple of times, he might think, well, that's my limit. That's as far as I can go. So they decided not to tell him. And the first time he ever knew he did it and what his timing was when he actually beat that first mile. And the reason he did that was because with not having a limit or any perception of what he may or may not be able to achieve, it gave him the confidence to actually do it. He could rehearse it in his mind. He could picture himself getting in under that clock and it clocking down under a minute. Another person whose life illustrates quite nicely this idea is Thomas Edison. I particularly like this one. It is said of Thomas Edison that one day, as a young lad, he was sent home from school with a note for his mother. He gave it to her, and Thomas Edison only ever spent a few months in school. He wasn't in school very long. Obviously, he's the light bulb guy and everything. gave his mum this letter, asked her what it said, and she told him that it said that basically your son is a genius and you need to teach him at home. And that's what happened. And obviously, Thomas Edison went on to make, as an inventor, create some amazing things, and he improved the telephone system and, like I said, the light bulb. And when his mum passed away and they were clearing out her stuff, he actually found the note that the school had written. She'd kept it. And when he opened it up and read it, it actually said, "Your son's brain is addled. Do not bring him back. He is expelled." Had he known that at the time and taken that belief that his brain was never going to amass too much, he may never have achieved the things he achieved. But because his mother had the insight to not put that limit on him, he was able to achieve all the things that he did. And finally, George Bernard Danzig, who I will be honest, I had to look up, mathematician and scientist from America, who did some stuff that I don't even begin to understand around programming and algorithms and stuff. Obviously, I'm not a computer guy. His story is also a beautiful one as well, actually. He turned up late to his statistics class. Everyone had gone, and there were two problems drawn up on the board there. And so he jotted them down, and over the weekend he went home and he worked at them, and he solved one of the problems, believing they were his homework. Next week he takes them in, presents his working out to his teacher, who has almost like an absolute meltdown because it wasn't homework. It was two problems that mathematically no one had ever been able to solve, and it was believed that they were impossible to solve. Now, if he'd been in that class and sat down being told that some of the best minds ever had had a go at solving these problems and could not do it, then he would probably go, well, I'm still just learning. I'm never going to be able to do that. However, there wasn't that interference. There wasn't that upper limit problem. So he was able to solve an unsolvable problem. So let's have a look. That's like me with art and craft. My art teacher at school used to write on my report every year. I can't see the rest of that at the moment, but I know what's coming. This student's below average for this subject. Constantly felt I couldn't do art and craft. And yeah, and that's Fee, when she's teaching, has that a lot with people with art. And the first they'll go, oh, I'm not very good at drawing, I can't be very good at painting. And she'll go, and I bet your teachers told you that, didn't they? And every time it's correct. There's a marvelous, actually, I'll find it and post a link to it. I think it's on YouTube. A fabulous, I think it's about an hour-long presentation by Richard Bandler, all about creativity, and it basically illustrates this principle that we have this limiting idea of what we can do, and actually we can go beyond that, just changing and reframing how we define it. So the first exercise, I'm going to get all a bit Blue Peter now. Where's a pen? Something bright and cheerful. There we go. First exercise I'm going to ask you to do, and we're not necessarily going to do this one straight away now, but I'm going to present it to you, is get yourself a piece of paper, and on the piece of paper you want to draw 1, 2, you can't even see those, can you? 3, 4 squares. That's the worst pen I could have chose to do that in. Where's that other thing gone that I had? That's on here somewhere. There it is. Now I'll see them. 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you number them 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, part of the problem that we have, and another thing that illustrates this upper limit restriction, is that if you ask a lot of people what they're brilliant at, what they're amazing at, they really struggle to tell you. They really struggle to tell you because as human beings, we can find it difficult to imagine that we are actually good at anything. What this exercise does, it's a very simple exercise, it helps push you past the limit by helping you see that you are actually brilliant at things as well. So in box one, I want you to write things that you're bad at. Box one is things that you're bad at. And yeah, I mean, you can go that. I inevitably predict that that is probably going to be the easiest one of these to fill in. In box two, things that you're neither good or bad at. So things you're just like on the fence with. I'm neither good, I'm neither bad. Box three, what are you good at? What are you good at? And then in box four, what are you brilliant at? Now, we're not going to do this here and now, although whilst I'm talking, you might want to start playing around with it, in which case you'll miss all the rest of it. But this exercise helps us push beyond, as I said, that idea that we can't do certain things. It pushes beyond that limit. This one will be easy. The bad at, we can list 101 things we're bad at. Probably the next one will be easier. Once we start getting on the good at, we especially I think in this country we're taught not necessarily to sing our own, blow our own trumpet, sing our own praises, that kind of thing. So there might be a little bit of kind of like, oh, well, got to stay humble coming into this. Ditch the humility, and eventually work around to it until you can put things in there where you go, actually, no, I am brilliant at that. I'm brilliant at that. And again, a bit like with definitions of success, these don't have to be huge, amazing, life transforming acts of whatever. Brilliant act could be, you know what, I am brilliant at poaching an egg. The more things you realize that you are brilliant at, the more you can realize that you can be brilliant at things. And if you can be brilliant at one thing, you can be brilliant at another, because that pathway, that process, that mindset that makes you brilliant in one area can be applied to other areas. So when you've got 5 minutes with a cup of tea, sit down and work through this. There's quite a few exercises today where it'll be kind of go away, work through it, and then come back to the workshop to follow it through again. So that's our first exercise. One of the beauties, one of the amazing things about human beings that I guess kind of makes us different to other life on this planet, as far as we know, is that we can imagine how things may be before we do them. Before we make them happen, we can imagine it, we can rehearse it almost, we can picture ourselves, imagine ourselves, think about ourselves in a certain situation. A bit like Roger Bannister with his mile in a minute. He was able to rehearse in his mind, seeing himself doing that even before he'd done it. And through doing that, he was then able to see the things and know the things that enabled him to actually achieve that. And so rehearsal is a really powerful tool. And the imagination, I mean, I've used this example in other workshops before, but if you imagine you're going to have a good day, you're going to have a good day. If you imagine you have a bad day, you're probably going to have a bad day. That's it. It's literally It's what you're telling yourself, a little bit like before we started this, when we were talking about kind of noisy cars and things. It's what you're telling yourself that's going to make that a good or bad experience. It's quite apt that that came up earlier. So, what I want you to do is this was another written exercise, but I've changed it. I think is have a fidget and get comfortable. And I hope my computer's coming over okay, because at the moment it's doing strange things this side. That's all right then. Um, just get comfortable, and we'll take 3 deep breaths together. And I just want you on the third breath to allow your eyes to close and just focus within, and let me guide you through this next little exercise. So let's take a deep breath in together. Hold it and breathe out. Breathing in, hold it and breathe out. Breathing in, hold it and breathe out. Just allowing your eyes to close. And I want you to just imagine, picture, think about a version of you that from waking to sleeping can acknowledge the massive influence you have in designing your own life. Imagine a you that knows that just 50% of your behaviors and what you do is habit. Those are the essential bits that kind of function automatically for us. But this leaves a huge amount of possibilities for you to influence the other 50% of your behavior, to influence and design your life, to become that person you're not yet. Just imagine that you. How that you would engage with life, how that you would engage with others. That from waking to sleep, knew that you can shape, design, and take control of your life. And then just step into that you. Try that you on. See the world the way that you sees it. Hear the inner dialogue that you has with yourself, that allows you to know that you can have a massive influence on designing your life. Get a sense for how that feels, to know that you have that ability to create and design your life. And notice where you feel that within you, that ability that you have to design your life. Give that a color. Let that color spin and flow within you, lighting up your whole body with that color. And as you're flooding your body with that color, with that feeling, notice a you that not only knows that you can have a massive influence on designing your life, but picture a you that is actively in the process of designing your life, making life the way you want it to be. Imagine, picture, think about that you. How would that you act in the world? How would that you respond to others? What would it be like to see that you active in the world? A you that not only knows that you can create and design your life, but also a you that is actively doing so. Picture that you before you and step into that you now. See the world through the eyes of the you that knows you can create the life you want. See the world through the eyes of the you that is actively doing and creating and designing that life. Hear the inner dialogue, the inner thoughts of that you that knows you can create and design your life and is actively doing so. Notice where that you feels that knowledge and that ability within you now. And wherever that is that you notice now, that ability to create and design your life and to imagine it and to do so, allow that feeling, give it a color. Allow that color, whatever it is, to flow within you. And as you're trying that, you on experiencing that, picture and imagine and think about a you that's created and shaped the life that you wish to have. A you that knows and knew that you can design your life. You can shape it and create it. See that you who knew that, as well as the creating and the imagining, the action and the doing was also needed to get you to where you wanted to be. See a you who dissolved that upper limiting problem and discovered that you can achieve things that you never thought possible. Step into that you. See the world the way that you sees the world. Hear the thoughts of that you. Get a sense and a feeling. Where that you feels that knowledge and that wisdom, that ability. And now, in a moment, we'll take 3 deep breaths together. You're going to bring back every insight, understanding, every bit of knowledge gained that will allow you to really begin to acknowledge and discover that you can create and design your life the way you want it to be the person you want to be in life, to show up as the best version of you. With each breath, we slowly return back, bringing back all that the unconscious mind has gained, whether you're aware of that consciously or not. Taking a deep breath in, bringing back any insights and understanding. Another deep breath in. Any feeling, any sensing, any knowing. And on the third deep breath in, bringing back, coming back to this time, this place, ready to continue on. And when you're ready, just open your eyes. Be here now. Wonderful. And it might be that after this session that some thoughts, ideas pop into your head around that you can jot down and make notes of, or it might be tomorrow morning or later on in the week you wake up or you have a moment, you go, ooh, and some insights come through that allow you to kind of step closer into that space. So moving forward, what truly matters to you? You see, when we live by what truly matters to us, by our values, we experience life with a sense of purpose, a sense of fulfillment and happiness. And that which truly matters to us, our values, are different to our goals. Goals without values are like a house built on sand. There's no solid foundation. Our values are the solid core, the solid bedrock on which we can build our goals, can create the life that we want. There are a lot of people, and I was reading something earlier on, an interview with a coach, and he was talking about his multi-millionaire clients. Don't have too many of them in Whitchurch, but he was talking about his, and saying that a lot of them were unhappy. And one in particular, he was chatting with him somewhere very nice. I can't remember where it was. And he just asked him that straight question, "Are you happy?" And this guy had replied, "Well, no, I'm not happy yet. There's a figure, there's a number in my head, and when I get to that, when I reach that goal, then I'm going to be happy." And this coach was like, "Well, why wait? Why wait that long? Why put your happiness so far in the future? Why not live a happy and fulfilling life now?" And this guy had goals, but the cost of his goals were the very things that mattered most to him. You know, he was aiming for this figure, always striving for this magical number that was going to make him happy, but he was not seeing his family anywhere near as much as he wanted to. He wasn't getting downtime to enjoy the simpler things that he enjoyed doing. And so discovering our values and what matters makes a real big difference in our lives and when it comes to our goals. And identifying our values and checking in with them every day will transform our life experience. So, for instance, if one of your values is to be as healthy as you can and to you know, be active, then checking in each day, how am I feeling today? Am I feeling as fit and healthy as I can do? If not, what can I do today to improve that? If one of your values is family time, then am I spending the time I need to and want to today with my family? If not, what can I do about that? Can I promise myself I'm going to make that up at the weekend, or can I drop something and actually make sure I get that time today? Or do I just go, that's it, when I leave the office today, the office can wait. I'm going home, I'm having that family time. But by identifying our values and bringing our values into our everyday, it enriches and fulfills us. And we don't want to postpone happiness. We don't want to be striving for this goal, because also, and you do see this, I know Fee talks about a chap that she used to look after their stable yard and their horses for them. And he was a lovely bloke, apparently, but he had this thing, got to get the money, got this goal, got to aim. When I get to this point, I'll retire and everything's, life's going to be good, life's going to be good. And he dropped down dead before he got there because he never stopped. None of us want to miss out on happiness. None of us want to miss out on, you know, fulfillment and enjoying life. None of us want to go, I will be happy when. It's much better to go, I'll be happy now. What's going to make that happen now? So, yeah, great question. Why put off being happy now? Why put off being happy for some other time in the future when you can be happy now? So, this brings us to our next exercise. And this is a series of questions. There's quite a few of them. This is the bit that you really, really needed your pen and paper for. Although, obviously, you can watch it again if you've not got one. And you can always ask me for them as well. That's, they're written down at the moment, but I can always make a PDF or something with them. Um, for these first set of questions, you really want to be putting as much detail in as possible, which is why I did initially think that maybe we would kind of go through them one at a time. But if you're taking, if it takes 20 minutes, 30 minutes to fill out one of the questions because you're putting detail in, I didn't want people to feel rushed. So I'm just going to go through the questions, make sure we're all clear with them. And then this is an exercise you can do sometime later on in the week or even after the session to go through. And the purpose of this is by answering these following questions in as much detail as possible, you'll start to identify those things that matter most to you. Start to identify those values that mean the most to you. So question number one, and none of these are difficult, but go into detail. So, not just a one line thing. Like the first question is, what is most important to you in life? Well, if the most important thing to you in life is music, for instance, don't just put music. Why? What does it do for you? How does it make you feel? What is it that it brings to your life? So as much detail and emotional detail in this as possible. So question number one, what is the most important to you in your life? If you give me just like a little wave or a nod when you're done, or just look at the cameras, then I'll know we're done. Fabulous. What is most important to you in your life? Two, who are you when you're at your best? Who are you when you're at your best? I feel like I'm reading a pub quiz. Who are you when you're at your best? The next one, actually, there's an extended version of the next one, which I'm currently working through with something I'm working on at the moment. But how do you want to be remembered? If there was an article going out about your life in all the major newspapers around the world, what would you want them to say about you? So that's the first three questions. And like I say, take time with those, go into detail. But then once you've got them, we're going to get even clearer on this. So the next part of this exercise, I want you to describe what it's like when your life is working well and you're operating at your peak potential or as close to it as you can get. What is life like when you're working well and you're operating at your peak potential or close to it, at your best? And again, bring feeling. We're going to that next. Um, with that, add in what are your thoughts, your feelings, and how do you behave in the world? How do you act in the world when your life is working well, when you're operating at your peak potential? Following on from that, what are your relationships like when you're in that state of peak potential? Thinking about work and careers, what are the results you achieve in your work, in your career, when you're in that peak potential state of mind? The next one could be interesting. Describe what it is like when you're in that peak potential mindset and you're operating at your best. I want you to imagine you have to describe that to a 5-year-old. What would you say? How would you describe to a 5-year-old what your life is like and how it's working well when you're operating in your peak potential? Breaking down all those things that you've put and simplifying it so a 5-year-old can understand it. And there's a reason we do that. Because the unconscious mind, it's believed, operates roughly in the age range of about 5 to 6. Which is why if you listen to a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist on stage or something, they quite often talk in quite a simplified version, not like they're talking to a 5-year-old, but also like they could be talking to a 5-year-old. Because if you explain things and talk to the unconscious mind at that level, the unconscious mind is more likely to take on board what you're saying. Which means when you do an exercise like this and you're writing that description to a 5-year-old of what your life is like when you're working well, when you're at that peak potential, and your unconscious mind is more likely to take that on board as well. Next batch of questions. I said there's a lot of questions in this one. So once you've done that, carefully consider the answers to the following. If your life is the best it can be, how is your health? How are your relationships? How is your career? How are your finances? How is your general level of happiness? And what would you like to celebrate this time next year in your peak state? When your life has been at its best for the next 12 months, what is it? What is that you'd like to celebrate? What has made your life work to date? What will make you more successful over time? When you are living your best life, who are your advisors? Who guides you? What are your key strengths? What are the character traits that have helped you through tough times? Just a couple more. If it all goes really well, what's your life going to look like in 5 years' time? And why is it you want to achieve the things you want to achieve? Fabulous. So, when you've got a period of time, if you can do it all in one sitting, brilliant. Um, go through these questions. Start going through these questions, answering the questions in as much detail as you can. This will help build a clearer picture and vision of not just what's most important to you and your values, but where you want to be heading, that life that you want to design and create. When you get to the end of this, as you get to the end of it, you're going to be in a peak state. If you do it all in one sitting and really commit to it, you're going to be in a peak state of mind. When you get to the end of it, once you've got there, squeeze the middle thumb and finger together and really focus on those positive feelings connected with this exercise. Really focus on how it makes you feel and do that several times, a bit like we did in the last workshop, to anchor and connect that gesture of pinching the thumb and finger together with those feelings, with that state of mind. And we do that because then in the future we can trigger that state of mind as at will, because we've connected it to a gesture. So it's a bit like, if you know the Pavlov's dog experiment, where he put out food for the dogs, and every time he did it he rang a bell, and then eventually he stopped putting the food out and rang the bell, but the dogs still came anyway because they'd be conditioned to it. It be created an automatic response. And by connecting those positive states of mind to that action, we are doing the same thing. We're creating a response in our mind to that gesture, and we can load up, as we're doing each session with this, those states of mind to that gesture. Once you've done all that, there is one more question, and that is literally, what does success mean to you? What does success mean to you? Is it a big fancy yacht and a car and a house and your own island? Or is it living a life where all your values are met and you feel happy and content? What is success to you? And you'll know when you're on, there's two things that can help you see when you go through all this especially when you look at the what is success to you, whether you've got the right ingredients for your success and for your life, or whether there's something that needs tweaking. The first of these is, if your idea of success means your life is so busy, there's no time for anything else, then that needs tweaking. Because success shouldn't come at the sacrifice of everything else. Secondly, if your idea of success is the opposite of what you're afraid of in the future, then that's not it. That's not it. If it's the opposite, then what you're doing is running away from fear rather than running towards happiness. And there's a big difference between running away from our fears or running towards that thing that makes us happy. So if you find that your idea of success means you're running away from fear, you need to tweak the idea of what success is and look at those values again. If your idea of success means that you're always too busy to do anything else because you're just constantly working on that idea of success, then you need to tweak it again. But once you have your definition of success, and that you can do that overall, you can apply it to just different areas of life, like relationships and work and things like that. Once you've got that definition of success and you think about it, if you notice that there is still a tension within your body and a tightness that comes when you're thinking about it, then your definition of success is not correct. Your body is telling you that that's not quite it. If, however, when you read back your definition of success and you go, oh my life, when do I start? That feels amazing. You know you've got it, yeah? If there's still a tension, if there's still an anxiety in place when you're thinking about what is that successful life, what is that life I want to create, if you've got a tension there, if there's a bit of a tightness, yeah, it's not right. But if when you read it, you go, wow, that is it. That's what I want. If reading it just makes you excited about being alive, then you've hit the nail on the head. And so once you've done these exercises, and I know it's a lot of writing and stuff, but sometimes we have to do it that way. Once you've done these exercises, you'll have looked at your life, your values, and you'll have clarity on what success is for you and where you want your life to be. That's like putting the rudder on the ship. You can now steer, you can now have direction, you now have a place you can go to. The next step is quite important, because knowing all this is useless and will never happen if you don't do something about it. So what do? Well, you plan it. You have a plan. I think a plan should always be a framework, not a rigid structure. Because if your plan is a rigid structure and something doesn't quite work as you thought it would, then you're limited. Whereas if you go, well, this is the plan, but there's room for movement, you're more likely to get there. So we're going to finish up with one more exercise. I'm going to guide you through this one. And you'll be glad to know it doesn't involve writing. No pens involved in this next bit. Just to get to relax. Oh, do apologise. That was probably really loud and need the thing. My knees playing up. I have to keep fidgeting tonight. Sorry. There we go. That's better. So yeah, once you've got all that in place, once you've looked at your values, what you want your life to be, what your definition of success will be, then we need to do it. We need to plan it and create that compelling future. And that's where we're heading with the rest of the workshops for this series. So for now, I want you to sit comfortably. I'm going to take you through this process, which once you've worked through those questions and got to that point where you've got your definition of success, then come back to this final part. But for now, we're going to go through it so you get a feel for it, and it will still benefit you. But it will benefit you even more if you've done the questions and worked through that. So, sitting comfortably, take a nice deep breath in. As you breathe out, just close your eyes just in the time that you need to take to relax, to feel good, and to go within. And it is good to relax. The more you relax, the better you feel, and the better you feel, the more you can relax now with each breath and each word. And I wonder just how much more than this you can relax now as you're breathing and listening to me. Relaxing, just focusing within. I want you to imagine, pretend in your mind, 1 year ahead. Just picture and imagine 1 year ahead, and you have had one of the best years of your life. Now, I don't know what that best year would entail. But, what happened? What happened to your health? What happened to your career? What happened in your relationships? What happened spiritually? What happened to your finances? What happened to your happiness that makes that best year? Just picture that. Imagine that. Imagine you've had that best year. It's a year ahead. And as you're imagining that best year, imagining a year from now, how does it feel to be living your values? Which goals have you achieved? Where and what in your life is making good progress? What new thinking, behaviors, and learning have you practiced? Be there now 1 year ahead, and I wonder, who are you becoming? And as you're there a year ahead, having had one of the best years of your life, I want you to imagine that you're now in a cinema. And on the screen, it's showing your ideal scene that represents all that you want most to happen in your positive future. Everything that you want in that year's time to have happened is there on that screen or represented on that screen. You are also in that scene, looking happy, fulfilled, empowered. Create that scene there of that positive future. See yourself in that scene. See the things that represent your happiness, your contentment. That you that you're becoming. as you continue to create that scene, I want you to make it bigger. Expand that cinema screen. Make it big. Make it bright. Make the colors vibrant. And notice that the bigger you make it, that wonderful scene of that successful future, as it grows, as it gets brighter and more vibrant, you can feel good now. And with that in place, I want you to float back 3 months from that point in the future, from that year ahead. Float back 3 months from your big picture and ask yourself, what needs to happen to achieve your big goals a year from now? What needs to happen to make those goals appear? And as you think about that, create a little smaller image, a little picture, a little scene of that. Seeing the things that need to happen at that point to make that happen. So we've got a big image of where you want to be in a year's time, and we've got that smaller image of what it took 3 months earlier to get there. And now float back another 3 months. And ask yourself again, what needs to happen at this point to make sure that big positive future happens? Make sure that you're in that image. Create an image of what needs to happen at that point. See yourself in it. Design that image of what needs to happen at that point to make that big, bright, wonderful scene happen. And again, float back another 3 months. And ask yourself again, what needs to happen at this point to make that wonderful big scene happen in the future? Design that scene, design that image, and make sure you're in it, a part of it. That's right. And now float back to now, that final 3 months, and ask yourself what needs to happen from this day forward to make that happen in a year's time. Create that image. Design that image. Put yourself in it. What needs to happen from this day forward? See it. Create that image. That's it. And so, as you're back here now, you can see a sequence of images that show you the direction of your life over the next 12 months. Make sure that you are in each of those images. And once you've done that, make all those images big, bright, and bold. Keep expanding them, making them brighter, more colorful until they feel amazing. Until those images are glowing and they're enticing and they're calling you and they feel amazing. And as you look at them, allow your unconscious mind to lock in the roadmap to your success over the next year. Allow yourself to feel the excitement, the optimism, the motivation for the journey of the next 12 months. As you begin to notice that, wherever you notice that now, I want you to bring that thumb and middle finger together and just squeeze it tightly, connecting that gesture of the thumb and finger to that feeling of excitement, of motivation, of optimism. That amazing feeling of that future, that thing in 12 months' time, that place where you'll be. And then release it and then squeeze it again and build those feelings. Do it several times, just connecting that feeling, that amazing feeling of that brighter future. Knowing where you're heading, knowing the steps that will take you to that place that you want to be. Just keep squeezing that finger and thumb together as you're feeling that, as you're focusing on that, and then release it. And then when you're ready to do it and to move forward with that sense of clarity and vision, that sense of direction for the next 12 months, then you can start to return, start to come back here, be now. Each breath bringing you back. And when you're ready, just open your eyes, be here now. Stretch, feel good. And when you work through these exercises and bring it together with the guided session that we've just done, you can begin to sense how life can be different, how you can take control and you can design and shape. There's a lot of stuff out there we have no control over. But what goes on in here, we have a lot more control over. So we've looked in the first of these sessions, we looked at self-belief. Today we've looked at clarity and gaining that vision, gaining that sense of direction and living by our values. And as we move on, letting go of the old mindsets and what we thought was possible, can begin to discover new possibilities and can begin to emerge with a new sense of life can be good. It can lead us to a new life of brilliant new opportunities and experiences, and we can go beyond that old limiting boundary that used to hold us back. And as you naturally begin to think of yourself as an even more successful and resourceful, happy, powerful person, you can start to notice the differences in how you approach life. And also other people may begin to positively notice those shifts and changes too. So in the next session, now we've got a plan, we know how to get our direction, that sense of clarity and purpose. In the next session, we're going to look at bringing in the third super mindset, which is determination. A determination, a super state of mind to drive us forward to do the things we want to do with our lives and achieve.